Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Tabor Swatsky. I'm with Gopher and welcome to today's Gopher Solutions webinar. For those of you who are new to our webinar series, this is a monthly webinar focusing on a variety of physical education topics and subjects. Some of our past webinar topics have included PE teachers presenting on specific activities like assessment, fitness, classroom management, and PE advocacy. Some of our past presenters have included Dr. Robert Pangrazi, Dr. John Medina, and Jean Blades. Our presenters have done a great job of bringing useful topics and information in the field of physical education. Our monthly webinars almost always occur the third week of every month, and all attendees of today's webinar will receive a certificate of participation for 1 hour of educational credit. And also today, all attendees will be entered to win the InReach Screamin' Yellow coated foam ball set, which is a $100 value. Today's webinar is titled Getting the Most Out of a 30-Minute PE Lesson with Elise Silver. But before I introduce Elise, I wanted to mention that you do have the chance to ask questions during the presentation. So on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a Q&A section or a question and answer section. So anytime if a question comes up that you might have throughout the presentation, feel free to type your question there. And only myself, the moderator, can see those questions. So at any time, feel free to ask away, and we'll accumulate the questions throughout the presentation. We'll have a chance to address your questions with Elise at the end of the presentation. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our presenter, Elise Silver. Elise has a Master's of Arts degree in physical education from the University of South Florida. She has taught physical education for 15 years in Hillsborough County, Florida. Elise was the 2014 Physical Education Teacher of the Year for Hillsborough County and the 2005 Teacher of the Year for Davis Elementary School. Elise is currently in her 9th year of being a certified foster parent. She is a single mom who has adopted 3 of her previous students. At this time, I will turn it over to our presenter, Elise. Elise, it's all yours.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. I'm very proud of my kids, so it's always special to have them included in my introduction. I know it's an extremely busy time of the year for teachers, so I'd like to thank everyone who's participating in today's webinar. Like my introduction said, I am a teacher in Hillsborough County, which is in Tampa, Florida. We use the rubric following the Charlotte Danielson framework. So most of my suggestions are based off her teaching strategies that I've picked up from my readings and my trainings. So let's go ahead and get started. As a physical educator, we have a huge disadvantage of only having our students for 30 minutes at a time. However, we're expected to fit in as much information as a classroom teacher who's given a lot more time to teach their material. Therefore, it's extremely important that we are prepared. Throughout this PowerPoint, I'm going to demonstrate how I personally set up my lessons to make sure that I include everything from turn-in talks to assessments. This is, like I said, my personal strategies I use to fit everything into my 30-minute lessons. So what do I feel you need to have in a 30-minute lesson to make it the best lesson possible? Your objective, academic connections, turn-in talks, assessing, high-level questioning, feedback, grouping, safety, teacher assessment, as well as student assessment and a review. That's a lot of information to put into 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to walk you through a couple examples, and hopefully you'll be able to walk away with an outline that I use to make my lessons the best possible. So are your lessons organized? Are you planning ahead? To me, that's the key thing. Did you organize your lesson? Do you have an objective in your lesson? Do you have specific directions? Are you assessing your knowledge? And we're going to go over these 3 areas in more detail, as well as all the areas. An objective. How do you even write an objective? The purpose is to focus on what the student will be able to learn by the end of the lesson. To help stress learning outcomes, an objective should start with the student will learn by the end of my lesson. You got to remember, an objective is not what the teacher is going to teach, but what the student is expected to be able to do by the end of the learning activity. And I think that's real important. We sometimes lose focus on what exactly is our objective. Directions. How do you give directions? Are the kids understanding them? I like to check understanding and somewhat assessing my students while I'm giving directions. I try to use my fingers and keep everything between 3 to 5 steps. In this example, I'm talking about the 3 keys to punting a football. So I use my fingers when I'm explaining. I would hold up one finger and say, arms straight out while holding the football. And I would hold my arms out and hold the football correctly. And I would ask my students, everybody show me one finger to demonstrate you understand step 1. Then I would say, everyone show me 2 fingers, step 2. Drop the ball, do not throw it while stepping. And I would obviously go into a little bit more detail of which foot to step with, how high to hold the ball before dropping it. And then I would say 3 fingers, show me the 3rd step. Swing your leg and kick with the instep of your foot and follow through. Now, a quick assessing I could do, okay, show me what step I'm on, and I would demonstrate my arms straight out and quickly look up and down the line of my students and say, great, I love that everyone has one finger up for the 1st step. Now show me what step I'm doing now, with hopes that everyone puts up 2 fingers when I'm demonstrating dropping the ball. And once again, when I swing my foot, I would ask, show me what step I'm doing now. So I'm giving directions and I'm checking for understanding. Obviously, if students aren't holding up their fingers, or when I'm doing step 1, they're holding up a 3, that tells me I need to slow down, go back, and restate the directions. Or if everyone's on task and showing me the right number, this gives me a visual assessment that my students are understanding the directions and I can move on. Assessing knowledge, that's huge. We can assess knowledge many different ways. I like to use the Charlotte Danielson's framework of the higher order questioning. Higher order questioning helps to increase learning because it requires the student to apply, analyze, synthesize, and evaluate, and prevents them to answer a question with a single word. For example, if you ask something and they were able to say yes or no, then that's not really getting detail, that's not assessing their knowledge. If I was punting the football and I can say, compare and contrast kicking a football off a tee and punting a football, and the student's able to give me a comparing and a contrasting, then that shows me their knowledge. Any of these keywords that you see in front of you typically engage the students to answer questions and have discussions with higher order thinking. A lot of times I can say, ooh, I'm not really clear what you're saying. Explain to me in more detail, or justify for me why you feel it's important to kick with your dominant foot and not your non-dominant foot. So those are just examples of communication that you can put into your lesson, which helps you understand if your students are applying and analyzing and understanding your directions. Now, you always want to keep your lesson flowing. That's important. Like I said, I do an outline, and we'll go over the outline a little bit more detail towards the end of this presentation. But my lessons typically always flow in the same manner. Safety is huge. People forget safety too often. They get so worried about having that 30-minute piece that they don't go over the safety piece each and every lesson, and that's where we start seeing a lot of injuries. Grouping. Grouping is real important. Have the students played on a team before, or are they brand new to the skills? And turn-in talks are a great way to get discussions going in your particular lesson. So like I said, safety first. You should never have your students leave your learning area, your group area, without first reviewing safety. That's huge. It doesn't matter what we teach them if we're not being safe out there. So make sure that in your direction time, you leave a minute or two to talk about safety. Don't rush through this piece, because without safety, none of us will be successful. Confidence levels. I use this confidence levels that are right in front of you, and actually one of my old partners, Lance Otto, helped create this and get this really going into our daily lessons. I have this board hanging up on my whiteboard outside with the confidence levels. Once again, I use the fingers. A student would hold up a 1 if they've never or really never punted and they need a lot of help. A student would hold up 2 fingers if they've tried to punt before but aren't very confident in their punting. A student would hold up 3 fingers if they have tried punting, maybe at school or daycare, and they're a little bit confident. A student would hold up 4 fingers if they're very familiar with punting and they do it on their free time. And a student would give 5 fingers if they punt on their football team or often punt and feel confident. Now, often you will get students who don't necessarily tell the truth and will think there are 5 in every activity. When we go to do our activities, I typically say, if you are a confident level 1, 2, or 3, you go to this area of the court, maybe to the right side of the field. And if you're a 4 or 5, you go to the left side of the court or field. This gives us some grouping so we can differentiate our learning and our tasks. Maybe my 4s or 5s, I'm going to add some targets for them to punt towards. As I watch the students, this gives me a chance as the educator to regroup. Maybe I see someone punting very well that's in the 1, 2, or 3 group, and I can challenge them to go down to the 4s and 5s and work at aiming at a target. Maybe I see someone who thought they were 4 or 5 and can't even connect with the football. So I might move them down and say, here, there's less people in this group. Let's move you down here so you can practice connecting with the football, and then we'll move you back to the targets. So this, as a teacher, as an educator, gives me a chance to assess and gives me a chance to challenge my students who have the skill levels ahead of everybody else. Turn-in talks. I use turn-in talks often throughout my lesson. We might review a previous class information. I can start and say, turn and talk to your partner and give me 3 skills that we worked on our last lesson. I can stop a lesson, also known as catch and release, to ensure comprehension. Turn and talk to your partner and discuss the 3 steps to punting. Maybe reviewing. Turn and talk to your partner. Tell us what step you did the best at and which one you feel you need to work on. While in line waiting for a class to leave, that's a perfect time to have class discussion. Turn and talk and tell your partner what you're going to do next time to improve your punting. So students want to participate in turn and talks. It's not a huge group activity. They kind of sometimes will get shy to give their opinion in front of many other students. So if they're just talking to his or her partner and giving their opinion, this prevents only a few students participating and gives the whole class a chance to talk It also gives you as the teacher an opportunity to walk along and make sure that they're on task. They're talking about whatever subject or manner that you gave them. So like I said, help yourself with an outline. This is an example of an outline that I do, and I'm going to quickly demonstrate what my class would look like when they come to their learning area. I would say something to the fact that our benchmark for today is striking a moving object using body part so that object travels in the intended direction at the desired height. I would say, boys and girls, our objective today is you will use control to punt the football. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to punt the football aiming at a target. I use student leaders. I would have a student leader come up and review our last class instruction, just a very quick introduction. We talk about why are we learning this? Well, maybe we just did kicking off the tee or soccer. We talk about it's football season. And once again, that's a minute or two. I then try to throw in a quick turn and talk, compare and contrast what you know from kicking a football off the tee and punting. Ladies and gentlemen, this only has to be 30 seconds. This is only going to take 30 seconds away, and now you've gotten your class talking and engaged. I bring them all together, and once again, I quickly have clues, so I typically say listing positions 1, 2, and 3, and by 3, everybody has their eyes back up on me, and I can continue with, once again, our objective is. I go through our 3 steps to punting the football, and I ask, go ahead and put up 1 finger for arms straight out. I use whole, part, whole. I demonstrate the whole thing. Then I break it down doing partial with detail and then back to my whole part. I do a quick assessment. I love using thumbs up, thumbs down, true or false. So I'll say, boys and girls, please give me a thumbs up if it's yes or true, or thumbs down, no or false. And you can give a silly example just to make sure everyone understands and say, thumbs up or down, I am wearing a purple polka dotted t-shirt. Well, I'm not wearing a purple polka dotted t-shirt, so I should see everyone's thumbs down. Then I can say, thumbs up or down. When I go to strike a football with punting, I want to kick the ball with the toe of my foot. And I look around, and if I see thumbs down, I can ask, who can convince me why you think this is incorrect, why you think this is false? So here I am once again assessing and adding in a higher order questioning so our conversation becomes more detailed. Then I'm going to drop the ball and maybe say thumbs up or down. Am I dropping the ball correctly? Who can predict for me what would happen if I threw the ball up in the air? And once again, I have higher order questioning and conversation going on. I am a big believer in showing your rotation in your demonstration. So showing the students how we're going to rotate through our punting line. I typically pick different people from the class, each class period, to demonstrate. This is a great visual. This, my friends, helps prevent safety problems, which is my next thing. Safety, safety, safety. Like I said, you want to show why we don't run in front of someone who's in the middle of punting a ball. Show by a funny thing, oh, what happens if the ball hits them in the head? And, you know, as a coach, I like to fall down or act silly. I use my rating system then. So I talk about, we've just gone over quite a bit of information. I want you to think about your rating. Have you rarely tried punting? Maybe you've done it a little bit. Maybe you're a little bit familiar. Show me on your finger where you feel you stand. And then I once again send out my 1s, 2s, and 3s in one area, my 4s and 5s in another area. After a few minutes of the students doing their activity, I blow my whistle to stop the lesson. I check. I say, everyone show me, demonstrate without using a football, what does step 1 look like? And hopefully everyone has their arms straight out. And I quickly go through and wonderful, excellent, great. Maybe I can do a correction. Your arms are too low. They're below your waist, whatever the case may be. But this gives me a chance to assess again, redirect or recorrect if needed, and we go through our 3 steps and then back to our playing. Now, when we're playing, once again, it's important as a teacher that I'm walking up and down my lines, my areas, and making specific praise, specific feedback, restating the steps, saying, I like the way you are, thank you for maybe rotating correctly, I can tell you've really been practicing. So giving some details while the students are practicing. I also then try to stop at some point and do a turn and talk. Could you turn and talk to your partner and give 2 examples of what you feel you need to work on? Ladies and gentlemen, this brings appropriate conversations, keeps everyone on task. They're getting a lot of play time. We are briefly stopping to assess, check, and communicate. At the end of the lesson, I always bring my team back together. We do a quick review. And in my specific PE class, I actually do journaling. At the end of class, we have up on the whiteboard key vocabulary words. Maybe we'll do a Venn diagram. We do something of a journaling, because I'm a firm believer that if you write it down, you'll remember a little bit better. Also, my students then have a journal at the end of the year of everything we've done so they can review for our end of the year exam. Key points to remember for a great lesson. This was shared with me many years ago by Kelly Mikesell, who's a phenomenal teacher and has a lot of great resources. Kelly talked about what do you need to know at the end of the lesson. Sometimes we write our lesson and we don't necessarily get to what we really need to know. Therefore, it's important to try to do backwards lesson planning. Did you know about this beforehand? Why are we learning this? We need to tell the kids, why are they learning this, so hopefully they'll buy into it a little bit better. It's important to state your objective many times. My objective is the students will be able to by the end of the lesson. Like I said, use as much higher order questioning, assess, and use teachable moments. That's very important. It's important to look at our lessons each day. Did we get through everything we wanted to? Did someone point out something that we want to share with our other class periods? This is how you do a 30-minute lesson, is by being organized, using an outline, and putting detail into your lesson. Now, I know that was a lot of information in a short period of time, and I believe we're going to have a question and answer session now. However, I wanted to demonstrate for you, we did this in 30 minutes, and we did the entire lesson. So this is something as educators, if we're organized, we would also be able to do.
Thanks, Elise. And just a reminder that we have questions on the right-hand side of your screen. You can type in any questions that you might have, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. So our first question, Elise, and I've been reading this one, and I was trying to get at kind of what they're asking, and maybe you can help me. So the question is, how would you best use a 30-minute elementary lesson one time a week on a Monday while having a 50-minute lesson the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, on a 3-day rotation. I think what the question is how would you use best use a 30-minute lesson, and then knowing you've got some longer lessons at the end. I don't totally understand the rotation part of it, but does that make sense to you, Elise?
I think I have the grasp of that. Every school is completely different. I've been at schools where we've been on 6-day rotations, some 5-day, some that do 45-minute every 6 days. So there's so many different things to grasp when doing your lesson. If I was in that case, first I would be fighting that, because some students shouldn't be allowed 30 minutes and other students 50 minutes. That's not really fair. In our county, in our state, it's required that everyone have 150 minutes of PE. The 50-minute lesson, you would obviously have a lot more skill time. It would be great to add different targets, different levels of kicking. Can you have a competition with height? Can you have a competition with how far you can kick it? You can add more science with force and momentum. You can add a measuring piece. With the 30-minute lesson, you wouldn't have as much time to add more cross-curriculum and getting more out of it. So I would have to kind of really vaguely answer this, that I would be fighting to make sure that every student, every class gets at least 30 minutes, and be very thankful for the ones that do get 50 minutes, because you would be able to go just more in depth with them.
Right, okay. And just a reminder to everybody also, you will get an email with a certificate of participation and a link to the webinar today. So if you want to take that back to your PE department, you use it here as we start school. In September, a lot of schools have already started to kind of have a kickoff for PE department. All of our webinars are available on our website to pull up and play back later. Elise, have you used these things that you talked about in elementary, middle, and high school all the way through?
No, I've only used them. I've only taught elementary school. Teaching is actually my second career. I've only been teaching for 15 years, and I've been lucky to be at elementary school the whole time.
Okay, good. Question about the turn and talk. How do you introduce your students to that concept? Do they just grab the person closest to them? I'd imagine there's some classroom management tips there that you could give our audience.
Absolutely. This, just like anything else, takes procedures and some practice. I have different skill cues that I use, and when I say turn and talk, you talk to someone that is right next to you. The groups can be no more than 3. So if there's an odd number of students, they know that there can be 3 people in a group, 2 to 3 people. We discussed ahead of time that this turn and talk is quick. It's low voice. You're talking just to the person next to you. And when I say listening positions 1, 2, and 3, they know listening positions means stop talking, and they have 1, 2, or 3 to turn their bodies back to me and eyes back up on me. This really gives us a quick flow. This gives everyone a clue. They know when they hear listening positions, time is up. 1, 2, and 3, they're back in their sitting or standing position, whichever you have them doing, and eyes back on me. We do practice. The beginning of school, I will give them something sometimes fun to talk about. Turn and talk to your friend about the best TV show you watched all summer. Okay, listening positions 1, 2, and 3. So they see it's a quick talk. If we'll discuss then if only one person got to talk, then that means they talked too long. So we talk about it has to be quick answers so both you and your partners have an opportunity to talk. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, great. Question about, in a 30-minute class, about how many minutes are you doing the skill? And I guess kind of related to that is, I know there's been a lot of talk these days about really kind of analyzing lessons to see how much activity time is involved in a 30-minute class, if that's what you have given. I think that's kind of what the question is getting at is instructional time versus the skill or the activity time within a 30-minute class?
Great question. In my particular situation, I get to see all my classes twice a week. So the first time they come out, I'm going to spend a little bit more detail on the steps or the keys to my lesson, a little bit more detail on the safety. So typically on a 30-minute lesson, they have about 15 minutes of skill time. Time we sit down, time we gather. I always leave time for my conclusion and my journal writing. On the second time the class comes out, I can do a quick review, a quick reminder of our safety, and then they typically have more like 18 to 20 minutes to get their skill time in. So the first lesson, there's always going to be a little bit less, and I know it's tough sometimes when we're being observed by our principal or peer or mentors, whomever we have in our county. If they come see you on a first lesson, you might get docked for not as much skill time. However, I'm a big proponent of safety first and detail. Just like in math, they want to explain multiplication once and say, okay, now go multiply. However, the third or fourth lesson of multiplying, the students can add more skill time of the multiplication and a little bit less of the teacher talk time.
Perfect. Question related to that, I think that last question spurred a couple of other questions. Do you start out with an instant activity at the beginning of the class at all? Like when students arrive, are they engaged in something like right off the bat, or do you typically bring them in for more of the instructional part of it?
Great question, and I've done both. In the past, last year, I jumped right into my lesson. This year, I'm back to doing my instant activity. I have on my rectangle PE court, on different poles, I have my poles numbered 1 through 8, and on each pole is a different exercise card. So when the students come out, they can go right to any pole they want. And this is also something that we practice, no more than 6 or 7 kids at a pole. And I give a student a whistle that they use their finger to make the whistle sound. They're supposed to look around, so they're the coach helper for that day, so that's student-led direction, student-led activity. And when they see everyone at the poles doing the exercise, it might be jumping jacks, maybe they do 8 to 10, the student pushes the whistle, and everyone goes to the next numeric pole. We only do this for about 2 minutes. The students seem to be getting a great warm-up. It comes out, kind of gets their jitters out right away. It adds the student component piece, the student leader, and then after 2 minutes, I blow my whistle, and we all come to our learning area, which is the circle in the middle of the court. I have found by doing this, I have less conversations going on during my direction time. My directions are going a lot quicker, and the students are kind of motivated. They've just gotten a little taste of an activity, get a little bit of the jitters out, and then we get right into our lesson. So I don't spend more than 2 minutes on my instant activity of exercising.
Cool. All right, we are going to announce the winner of our InReach ball pack, valued at over $100. And before I do that, just a reminder again that we will have our webinars about the third week of every month, so keep an eye out for emails coming out announcing next month's webinar. And all of the attendees today will receive an email linking you to the recorded version of our webinar if you want to take that back to your PE department, and also a certificate of participation that you can print out for continuing education. The winner is Chris Stewart, an elementary PE teacher with Matanuska-Susitna Borough School District in Alaska. So we will get that sent out. And again, Elise, thank you so much for our webinar today, and all of you that attended, thank you for joining us, and we hope that we can see you again at another webinar coming up. Everybody have a great start to the school year, and we look to see you back here again. Thank you.